Hello again, and thank you for watching. This is a little video that I'm going to show you one strategy we can use to multiply a mixed number times a whole number. I'm going to make another one that will show us how to multiply a mixed number times a whole number another way. But for this video, we're going to use improper fractions. And hopefully one of these two methods you will kind of latch onto and say, yeah, that's the one for me. Okay, so we're going to use this example of 5 1/4 times 6. Okay, 5 1/4 is obviously our mixed number, 6 is our whole number. So the first thing we're going to do is turn our mixed number into an improper fraction. And I do have a video on that, so you can always go back and look at that if you want. I'm going to do a quick little refresher on that just to remind ourselves. I have 5 wholes, and my denominator, my fraction I'm working with, are fourths. So I need to think about 5 wholes as fourths. 5 wholes would be how many fourths? Well, 1 whole is 4/4. We know that. That's something that we've learned, or we've known, I should say, for a few years when, back when we were first learning about fractions. So 5 wholes is 5 groups of 4, because that's 4/4, 4/4, 4/4, 4/4, 4/4. That's kind of a mouthful, kind of a lot to say. Oh yeah, we're multiplying. That's 5 groups of 4. So 5 groups of 4 is 20. And then we have to remember that there was this extra one that we don't want to forget. We have to include that. So we're going to add it in. That's a nice arrow. And this is where that idea of the circle method comes in, if that helps you remember it. We're going to multiply the denominator and the whole number, because again, 5 wholes is how many fourths? That'd be 20/4, and then add the one that was already there. So this is now 21/4. And we're multiplying by 6. Okay, so we're kind of halfway there already. That's the nice thing about this method is it's pretty efficient. There aren't a lot of steps to it. But I do have a fraction times a whole number, and hopefully you remember from what we've done and maybe the video that you watched earlier, is we should think about this whole number as a fraction itself. It's always been a fraction. We just don't often write it like a fraction unless it makes sense to, and I think in this case it makes sense to. So we're going to remember that 6 wholes as a fraction is 6 over what? Yeah, it's 6 over 1. And that makes it a whole. So now we have a fraction times a fraction, and if we remember that, we know we can multiply the numerator times the numerator, and then the denominator times the denominator. So let's go ahead and do that. 21 times 6. 21 times 6, you can do it off to the side if you need to. 6 times 20 is 120, plus 1 more is 6, so that would be 126. And then 4 times 1 on the bottom, well, wait, that one's kind of nice. That's just 4. So our answer here as an improper fraction is 126/4. But like we've talked about, telling somebody, oh, I'm going to give you 126/4 dollars probably wouldn't make a lot of sense to them. Improper fractions often aren't the most easily understood. So it can be helpful to turn them back into a mixed number. So to do that, we have to remember that fractions are a way of writing what? Yeah, fractions are a way of writing division. 126/4 is actually 126 divided by 4. So just a little bit of division to do that, to figure it out. I can get 3 groups of 4 out of 12. And that's nice, it worked out. Nothing left, but I'm not done. Remember, I've got to go all the way down to the last digit in the number, so I don't just stop when I get a 0. So nothing to bring over. So just how many groups of 4 can I get out of 6? Well, that's just 1. And that's going to leave me with 2 extras or a remainder of 2. But I'm not going to write it as a remainder. We know that now because we're dealing with fractions. So these were fourths to begin with, so that's what they're going to be at the end. So that is 31 wholes. That's right here. Oops, wrong one. There we go. There's 31 wholes. And then those 2 extra are fourths. So 31 and 2 fourths. So 5 1/4 times 6 would give us an answer of 31 and 2 fourths. Or if we want to be really fancy, we could say 31 and a half, because 2 fourths is a half. Okay, so that's one example. Let's do another one. Won't take quite as long this time. So let's do, how about 3 3/5 times 8. Okay, again, first thing we want to do is take that mixed number, this right here, and turn it into an improper fraction. So fifths is what we're thinking of, because that's what we have. So with 3 wholes would be 15 fifths. That's 3 times 5 plus the 3 that were already there. So that is 18 fifths times 8. And again, remember that 8 wholes is the fraction 8 over 1. Okay, so now we have a fraction times a fraction. That is, multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. 18 times 8, that's a fun one. 8 times 8 is 64. 10 times 8 is 80. So 80 and 64 is 144. And then that on the bottom, 1 times 5 is obviously 5. So I have 144 fifths. But again, let's not leave it like that. Let's convert it to something that makes a little more sense. So we'll do a little division. So 144, make that a little bigger. Neatness is not my specialty, as you can see. So I'm going to divide 144 by 5. So I can't get any groups of 5 out of 1, so I'm going to go right to 14. I can almost get 3, but I can't. I can only get 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. That will leave me with 4 extra. I'm going to bring that over. That's going to be 44. So how many groups of 5 can I get out of 44? Again, almost 9, but it's not. It's 8. 8 groups of 5 is 40. Subtract, and I am left with 4. And again, don't leave that as a remainder. I don't also have to turn it into a decimal. I'm dealing with fractions here. I can leave it as a fraction. So my whole number is 28. And my 4 extra are what they were to begin with. They're fifths. So it's 4 fifths. So 3 3/5 times 8 gives you an answer of 28 4 fifths. So I hope that video was helpful. That is a way to multiply a mixed number times a whole number using improper fractions. There is another way that you can do it. It's kind of like using an area model, and you can watch both and decide for yourself which one you like better. Thanks for watching. Take care.